over 19. Hey, back, hit a $250,000. When it's here, pretty chilly. I've been trying to find me really wow. Silly, yo, I be gone like Cheerio. Really though, swear we finna get the gold. You the goat, but the most I'm getting old. Standing still, yeah, I'm getting way too cold. Like it's uno dos, I go single on these hoes. Doesn't songs, doesn't shows. Guess that's just one way to grow.
All right. Hello, Dynasty Degens over here. This is the Rookie Profiler series, the series that we dive into all of your top ranked rookies and even some that you might not know about. We go into their analytical profile. We talk about their positives, negatives, everything in between. And then we try to drop our honest take of what we know and what we see about this guy. As always, I'm joined by a guest. Today, you definitely know him on the space. My man Shane is everywhere at Shane Says on X. Shane, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on. I don't think everybody knows me. There's a lot of people that don't know me. I read the comments and people are like, who's this guy? Or they'll be like, I like this guy. So there's some people out there that don't know me.
Yeah, if they don't know Shane, then you definitely should know Shane. But I feel like you're being modest right now. I mean, the people that don't know you, they don't deserve to know you anyway, man.
There you go.
That's how I think of it. But I'm excited today. You handpicked this guy. As always, I always have people handpick their guys. You chose them for a reason. So we are getting into Jaylin Noel. So Jaylin Noel is a senior out of Iowa State. He's coming in at 5'10", 194 pounds. He is somebody that has steady production all throughout his college career. So he's pretty much upped his game a little bit. And I like to see that as somebody that goes up and up as far as their production goes and just like their output. And the way that he started was mostly a return guy. And I like somebody that blossoms a little bit that way. He shows his explosiveness, the way that he can essentially go 0 to 100 as a player in that role right there. But I'm just going to go over some of his past accomplishments, his stats over the years, and I'm going to kick it over to you, and we're going to get right into the meat of the stuff there. So we're talking about his last season. Oh, so wait, okay. So he was a complimentary piece in his collegiate career, excellent return guy, blew up in 2024 with 7 touchdowns, over 50 yards, and 80 catches for about 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. I studied this guy. I watched a lot of tape of him. He is, like I said, explosive. He's got good footwork. He comes out of his breaks very fast. There's a lot to like about him, and I think he's fastly driving up his value as far as a rookie goes. Shane, what do you like about this guy, and why'd you handpick him?
So I went to the Senior Bowl, and there were, I don't want to say a ton of people I didn't know players-wise, but, there was definitely players that I wasn't aware of. Obviously I watch college football. Everyone watches college football. The bigger schools, right? But I noticed him just running routes. I just noticed him beating defenders. And I'm like, when we're there, we have to interview people, right? So I'm thinking like, who can I interview? Let me just look up these guys, look into them. So like I said, I noticed him on the field. And I said, let me just look into him a little bit. And the first thing that popped off his page was the 7 career touchdowns over 50 yards. So I'm definitely a player that likes to shoot for ceiling. When I see something like that, I go, oh, this is a dude that he might not be exactly like a lid lifter, right? But he's still explosive and he makes big plays. I just love that about players like him, because that's going to be kind of what he needs to carry him production wise, right? He's probably not going to be a high volume guy. Probably, who knows, because he will be a slot receiver more than likely, though he can play out wide. But that was the first thing that really, really drew me to him, right? And then looking into it, yeah, there's the punt returning and the kick returning. I think he was all conference this year in punt returns. I think it was punt returns. His kick returns have dropped a little bit, but he's probably a player with the new kick return rules that I don't quite understand. But from what I hear, they're gonna cause more kick returns this year. So that's another player. Like if you get that scoring in your fantasy leagues, and I know a lot of mine do, it's like this secret sneaky scoring. That's a guy, he can help you there too. So just first off, really the explosion and the versatility, I think, is what really drew me to him.
Yeah. I think that is obvious in his tape. I also like his line work. So I alluded to that before. He just has a really good first step. He has that defensive manipulation that you look for in a player, where they can get you on that hesitation or that shoulder move or whatever it is off the line. He does get separation outside of his speed, but he did test extremely well. So we're going to pull that graphic up right there. You know, he ran a 4.39. He's pretty high up there as far as, you know, he just got good agility, burst scores up there. Things that you want to see. Obviously, I don't go by the numbers, but I do like what I see from the eye test, and I see from the analytical standpoint as well. His route running actually surprises me too. I think he's really crisp as far as his breaks go. I think he holds some weight to, you know, outside of the explosiveness. We're talking about, okay, he's got these catch rates of over 50 yards. He's got all these touchdowns of massive chunk plays and stuff like that, but he's good in intermediate routes, and he's nice in the middle of the field too. Like you said, he's a slot receiver, so he does have that ability to work in the middle. And it's funny. I wasn't really in on this guy at all, you know, throughout the whole scouting process. I watched a little bit of him. You know, he's a 4-year player, and it's incredible, these guys that they just rise up, you know, and they rise up for good reasons, obviously.
So I was just going to say, you know, some of the old metrics that we used to care about, right? Breakout age, early declares, don't seem to matter as much. And I don't know if it was just a blip on the radar because of the extra COVID year. All the college kids got an extra year. So there's some kids that were in college 5 years, 6 years. He was only 4 years. But it seems that we care about those things less, and they seem to be less predictive. Now, again, we're talking about a small sample size, right? So I'm just latching on that small sample size. But like you said earlier, we saw his production grow every year. And yes, do we want to see them break out at 18? Obviously. That's really what we'd love to see, because it's a teenager, a kid beating older young adults. That's not what happened in this situation, but we've seen it go the other way, right? I think we saw Juju Smith-Schuster was an early breakout. There's a bunch of guys that were early breakouts. I can't think of his name now. It doesn't matter. But there's been early breakouts before where they just never turned into anything because they never progressed beyond that. Brian Edwards is actually who popped in my head. I think he broke out at like 17.6 or something, right? And then
Traylon Burks is who I think of. Like,
right.
He was an absolute monster in college. And
Traylon Burks could have been this guy if he could run routes. He was faster, explosive, more bursty. So in no way is he like Traylon Burks. So absolutely not.
Yeah.
But yeah. Traylon Burks was another guy. So that's just breakout age it's cool. It's something that you really like to point to because you're like, oh, he broke out at 17.9, but it's not the end all be all, right? This kid's college career, he did take steps forward every year.
Yeah. And you like to see it culminate at the end there. And that's exactly what happened with him. But you're right, though. The process is so different now. And I'm never going to, I think like 5 years ago, you know, when I was first really getting into like scouting and learning about, you know, the process of just like, you know, learning my own process and how I go about things. And that was always a knock, you know, breakout age. And if they're, you know, going through all 4 years, do they essentially, you know, work on a conference that, you know, you're pretty much getting a funnel through as far as age wise goes. And you're getting that gimme year, as we like to call it, your senior year. I don't see that with him. And like you said, the process isn't there anymore. So I don't think we can go by that per se. You know, I think that this guy is somebody that you need on your radar. You need to look out for him in rookie drafts, and he's rising up the boards.
You know, it's part of that, just that old evaluation. And I always think of this now when we talk about slot receivers, is that used to be, I'm so old, but that used to be like faint, you know, damning someone with faint praise, I think is the saying, whatever. It was basically giving a backhanded compliment, be like, oh, he's an excellent slot receiver. Like that's all they could do. So they weren't very good. But we've seen multiple wide receivers now, like teams like to use them out of the slot. You know what I mean? Like that's a good spot to be for high end production, not just, you know, 157 targets and you get 1,000 yards, 100 receptions for 1,000 yards. I forget who did that. It's probably like Wes Welker or someone like that. We've seen players come out of the slot now that can be high end producers. And just to your point earlier with his routes, a lot of intermediate stuff, but he also does run a ton of go routes, and he is good on the deep ball. Like, this is a dude that can produce like all levels of the field. So some of the old ways we used to think about things, we do have to kind of put aside and go, all right, well, just because see, I even said it. I'm like, when I'm trying to give him a compliment, I'm so, just because he's a slot receiver. Being a slot receiver is not necessarily a bad thing anymore.
Yeah. And I see him as somebody that needs like a spread formation, like somebody that could work excellent in an offense that is spread out. He doesn't need to be he could be the third option in a lot of offenses, but I see him as like a second option in most offenses right now. And that quick release, and that if he just gets like a release, like you said, like going on a go route, he's gone. Like, if he can just get you on that early step or whatever it is that he gets your hesitation, I think that's really what makes him extremely dangerous, especially out of the slot. They can work him kind of all over the field, and I like that about him. But if you're looking at his game and you see any knocks on it as far as his prospect profile goes, and you think you might have a couple of red flags, do you have any that come to mind?
Drops, right? And that's something that you see throughout every draft profile you read on him. And I'm not a tape grinder, so I don't know why you drop a pass. You know what I mean? Other than concentration, those ones. I think people always say concentration is what it feels like. Everyone's like, oh, it's a concentration drop, but whatever. He does have drop issues, but we've seen wide receivers produce in the NFL with drop issues before. Like, I always go back to, again, I'm old, but like Will Fuller. The biggest knock on that dude was like, oh, he dropped so many passes. And you're like, I don't care, because when the ones he catches are for 40 yards. So whatever, he could drop some passes. He's skinny, right? He's really skinny. He's slight of frame. It's 190, I think. What was it? 197. He's small.
Yeah, he's about 6 feet,
Yeah.
194. So yeah,
Right.
I
He's
mean, I
small.
think he could fill out a little bit, but
Yeah. And you could body him on the line, right? So you were talking about that
yeah,
free release. You could definitely body him on the line, but that's part of, like, all right, you put him in motion, you line him up in the slot, and that's not as easy to do. And like you said, he can still fill out. He's a 21-year-old kid, And
yeah,
there's a lot that happens to your body between the ages of 21 and 25. You get into an NFL locker room, you get into NFL food and nutrition, and all those doctors they have. Not that colleges don't have good ones, but I don't know how good is it ISU? Is that would it be ISU? Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
That's their acronym,
ISU.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
Iowa
know.
State. Well, Iowa State. I don't know. Iowa State University. Yeah, that's right.
Sure.
Yeah.
So someone's going to jump in like, no, that's Illinois State, you jerk.
Yeah, whatever.
But anyway, so he's slight, right? But he's strong. I'll say that. I'm trying to say bad things about him, but I really like him. The dude won the wide receiver bench press. He had 23 of those. I don't think all the wide receivers tested in that, but still, he did it. So yeah,
I mean, they're scared. A lot of people are scared to do that. So the fact that he just went up there and did it,
So skinny
yeah.
and drops, right? Skinny and drops, and these are both things that you can work around, right? You can work on your hands. You can work on an NFL team's going to look at him and go, you know what? He's getting bodied at the line. Maybe we should run this dude on some motion and let him just go that way.
Yeah, on press coverage, he does struggle a little bit against physical corners and stuff, but I think that just, obviously goes along with his weight, and he is a dog. I think he does have that dog in him. I think he has that mentality, obviously just going up in the combine and putting up the bar 23 times. And you're right. They don't always test for that. So the fact that he even wanted to test for that just shows you that he's strong-willed. He's strong. He's got that dog in him. But yeah, I think the knocks on him is the offense they ran. It is wide open, so he did get a lot of free releases. But NFL's kind of moving towards that anyway. It used to be like any guy that came out of like Tennessee, you couldn't really trust, like the Jaylin Hyatts and the Cedric Tillmans and stuff. You're like, oh, they're never going to amount to an NFL caliber wide receiver because they worked off free releases their entire college career. But I don't think that's how it rolls anymore. I think that he's definitely not just a free release guy by any means. But I think there's talk of him going early day 3. Does that sound like a good projection for him?
I've seen, so I was just checking NFL mock draftable. They had him between second and third round, so there's a couple like late second round. I was looking at the consensus mock boards and the big boards, but yeah, second or third round is where it seems he's destined to go. Now, obviously, we really want him to go in the second round because I will say I'm still skittish about taking wide receivers that are in the third round. You get outside of the second round, it's going to be it's rare that a wide receiver actually comes out and smashes. And don't give me Terry McLaurin. I know there's outliers. There's always outliers, but it's usually not going to happen. So you really want that second round draft capital, really. If he doesn't get it, am I not going to draft him? No, I'm in 1,000 leagues, so I'm going to have him somewhere. You know what I mean? I'll have him in multiple leagues, and I do like him. I mean, there's a lot to like when you look at his profile in general, right? You look at things like he's a zone buster. Like that's a very special skill. Dude ranked third among wide receivers against zone last year in yards per route run. He has special skills. So I think he'll get round 2, especially considering that the wide receiver class is not great this year. I think you're not going to want to sit on wide receivers and let it go on a run. And then you miss out on him. And then you have to draft a guy like, I don't even know, Tez Johnson 4 rounds later, who probably won't even be drafted at this point. But yeah, you get my point. Just, I think he'll go in round 2, and I can live with round 3. If it's like early round 3, I'll still talk myself into him.
Yeah, I'm okay with early round 3, but you're right. Once you get to that mid to late round 3, it's going to be hard for you to break out, and you're probably going to be sitting behind, a horde of, be the 4th string, 5th string guy for a little while. Until you actually show out a little bit. You might need some injuries and stuff like that. You're right though. I just can't see him. He does open up an offense, and he would fit extremely well in a lot of offenses right now. Before we get into landing spots and comparisons in the NFL, we are going to kick it over to Fast Draft. So I don't know if you've done Fast Draft at all. So Fast Draft is actually an app you can go into. They have an Origins draft, so you can go in, you can draft rookies. They have a couple different formats that you can go into, but this is the one that I'm most interested in because you can go in there, you can get a share of Noel right there, and you can actually get him and project him as far as next year goes. So you are drafting your rookies right now, and you're in instant tournament. So it's a best ball tournament for all rookies. I'm going to kick it over to them, and they're going to just tell you all about it. If I can find the video, here we go. Bang, bang. And then we'll come right back.
Rookie. It's all about rookie talk in fantasy football right now. So why not go use all that knowledge to do something other than a mock draft? Chris Jimino won $8,000 with just 2 teams last year, and each draft took 5 minutes. That's pretty good ROI. You can start doing rookie drafts for money today on Fast Draft. The Origins tournament is live. It is the place to go and monetize your knowledge of rookies and use your favorite Player Profiler host promo code for a $25 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
Yeah, so that is Fast Draft, and that's a Podfather just going at it right there. But if you go over there, you can drop in and drop our promo code DEGEN. So it's DEGEN, and I haven't had this up the entire time. So there it is. So promo code
Gotta leave that up, man. You gotta leave that up. Hit the
once I moved over to the graphic, and it just I'm not a good host when it comes to overlays and popping it up and popping it down, man. I need a producer on my side right here, and I just need to talk, because if I'm looking for videos while I'm doing this, it doesn't end well. It's never good.
Get you a producer.
Yeah.
So if enough people go sign up on Fast Draft and use the promo code DGen, you can start paying a producer.
So we'll give a $50 match, and then I can get a producer so that you're not struggling to find out what our promo code is the entire time. But all right, so we want second round DC for this guy. Okay, early third if that's the case, but we think that he's got enough juice to get into that second round. Where's the ideal landing spot with the skill set that you'd want this guy to go to? Like a couple teams that you'd love him to work in, Like I think he would be really good in Dallas. You know,
Dallas
like
is a good spot. Yeah.
they don't really have a second guy there besides CeeDee Lamb. I think
The only thing that concerns me about Dallas is CD runs a good percentage of his routes out of the slot. Not that Noel can't. I said his name wrong. Not that Noel can't kick to the outside. Although I guess you could just mix and match. A good offensive coordinator will figure it out. I don't know about their offensive coordinator though. But sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if he's good, but they might actually, it might be a bad spot because they would not know how to work that and figure that out the right way. But what about the Patriots? I think the Patriots would.
The Patriots are the default. If you are a good wide receiver, we would really, really, really like you to go to New England, please.
I've thrown that out for every prospect we've gone over, I think, so far, is go to the Patriots, please.
Raiders too. Raiders. I love Jacoby Myers. You know, Brock Bowers is a obviously a stud, but they could use another weapon, and he'd be very different than Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. Like the skill set would be perfect, and that's kind of place like you'd really hope that he lands. New England's just wide open because all their receivers suck. You know, Pop Douglas. Sorry, not very good. Whatever dudes they drafted last year, I already forgot. Was it Javon Baker? We all had hopes for.
They drafted Javon Baker, and then they who else did they get over there? They got they drafted him very early. They drafted him over Ladd McConkey. I'm trying to think of his name.
Yeah, I'm looking it up because it's pissing me off. But yeah, their wide receivers are just not good. Just very. Who
was the guy they drafted over Ladd McConkey though? Because that is
all right. So they still have Keyshawn Booty. Oh, Jaylin Polk. Yeah. I've already forgotten Jaylin Polk's name. And
I know. We both did, actually.
Yeah. And he was a guy. What did we say last year? That's if there's an offense that a rookie drafted, where he can make an impact, it's going to be New England. Jaylin Polk wasn't it, though, unfortunately.
No. And that was the thing, though. They have this long history of drafting these guys that don't work out over legitimate studs in the NFL. Like they took like Tyquan Thornton, I think, over AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel. And then years later, they took who else did they took a burner. They took another guy.
I forgot they did add Steph Diggs, but still the point stands.
Yeah, Diggs is over there.
They have one good wide receiver right now. Okay.
Yeah, and Diggs is definitely looking like he's coming back pretty strong from that injury, but that's a big risk to have that be your wide receiver one in an offense.
There's a reason they structured that contract to be essentially a 1-year deal.
Yeah. All right, so we're thinking actually I like the Raiders. The Saints already have they have Shaheed back there.
Yeah, I don't know how bad you look. If he ends up in New Orleans, that'll tell us a couple things. Mostly that Rashid Shaheed's knee is really messed up. Because I haven't heard much about that. But I would hope he doesn't land there because I'm a personal fan of Shaheed.
I am too. Yeah, I've been taking him everywhere, super late in drafts right now. So I'm hoping he's just they have too many issues over there. They need a lot of guys and a lot of help. So I'm hoping they roll with Olave and Shaheed this year. Is there anybody in the NFL that you see that kind of reminds you of this guy? Like, would you throw any comps out there?
I'm terrible at player comps. Just put that out there. Christian Kirk reminds me of Christian Kirk a little bit.
Okay.
The second person I was thinking of literally just skated out of my mind. Not the play style. Which is probably what you're actually looking for, but just I feel like he could be like the Terry McLaurin of this class. Again, not the exact play style, but just
I see that
path.
There's a lot of Rashid Rice talk for him.
Yeah,
and like Rice wasn't viewed as a game breaker at all. Coming out, I think he was kind of viewed as like a back end in that class. Like you can get him in the end of the second, early third round of rookie drafts, and he would probably be okay for you, like, but nobody saw him coming in and being the guy that he was. So, I mean, I think prospect wise, I can see it, like I think they have similarities as far as how they run off the line and stuff.
I'll tell you what, if people start spitting that comp out there, he'll definitely go early in our rookie drafts. Earlier.
I know. Yeah. And even if he isn't, I mean, I think he's going in the second. I keep talking myself out of the fact that he's going to be going super early, super late. But yeah,
I agree.
I feel good about him a lot. Anything you want to add to our guy before we get out of here?
No, just like I said, I'm a fan of him. There's lots to like about him, right? Like he's really, really athletic. His production increased every year. He's versatile. Like he can play outside of the slot. He is a kick returner, punt returner. Again, the kick returning decreased as his usage as a wide receiver went up. But there's going to be, especially in the leagues where you get points for returns, he could be a sneaky little ad there. So just he's a player I really like. I do like him. I'll probably. Man, this class is so deep at running back. Like he might be like an arbitrage play against a running back, maybe somewhere in the mid to late second rounds, because I'm pretty sure he'll be available there. So it's going to be fun to see where he lands, though. And NFL draft night, can make or break him. Like we said, if he ends up in the back of the third round, guess what? I fell a little bit out of love with you, bro.
Yeah, and that's going to be unfortunate. I think there's going to be a lot of landmines in this draft class, unfortunately, just because of the way. There's just too many guys that are valued at a high price point as far as rookies go right now. So definitely, I would say almost half of the running backs are going to fall out of favor, like outside of the top 7 or 8, even if we see 8 running backs drafted within the first 3 rounds, that's already, one of the best classes at that point,
Yep.
So it's going to be tough, man, but it's going to be fun. I can't wait for draft day.
No,
and you're right. This is somebody that I'm going to tap pretty comfortably in the middle of the second. And that's if he does get good DC. I think that's like where I'm comfortable taking him. I don't think I would push him any farther up, but I mean, you would take him. Would you do him or Jaden Higgins? Have you looked into Higgins at all?
Yeah, I've looked into Higgins, but I think I like Noel better. I do. Yeah, I do. I know Higgins is obviously the bigger. He should be the prototypical X receiver, right? But there's some noise about him being maybe a slot only receiver in the NFL. So I don't know. That's a little weird to me. So now I prefer him. But again, you look, draft capital is the end all be all, to be quite honest with you. If Higgins goes in the end of the first or mid second, Noel goes in third, my attention is going to go to Higgins. But that's also an opportunity to get Noel later in the draft, because a lot of people think like that. So then that means if I can get Noel in the third, cool, I'm good with it. And I'll pass on Higgins in the second of my rookie drafts. Yeah,
because I think you're probably going to have to pay up for Higgins at this point. Even with the RAS score his RAS score was pretty good. Obviously, his reception perception chart, I don't know if you saw that. A lot of red on there.
Yeah.
Little things that I see that will probably drop him down a little bit, but still going to be more expensive than a Noel, I think, in rookie drafts. So, Shane, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you joining my sloppy mess over here. Just no overlay for a while, just talking nonsense with you, man. But it's been good, man. I'm glad we finally got on a pod together. So,
no, man, truly appreciate you letting me jump on with you.
Yeah. You got anything you want to drop? Anything that you guys are working on over there?
Oh, I think like everyone getting ready for the NFL draft, we'll be live streaming all 3 nights of the draft, or all 2 nights, and then the third day. So, we got the DD. If you haven't subscribed, or if you actually like anything I say, or you like Dynasty Theory or Scott Connor or Ty DeClaire in our trade show, check out our DDFB YouTube page, Destination Devi YouTube page, what is now ddfantasy.com. So just check us out.
Yeah, go check that out. And then definitely give Shane a follow over on X at Shane Says FF. We appreciate you joining us tonight, and we will catch you guys next week.
Right back to business as usual. Straight out of what's under my cuticle. I blocked it, they picked up my coffin. Ain't it funny how